Can you tell us about the status of food and nutrition security in Kenya?
Yeah, thank you very much.
Yes, correct.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Can you hear me?
Loud and clear, Professor.
Okay, so I think thank you very much for this session. I would like to first say that in 1996, I got a scholarship from the Dutch government to go to Wageningen to go and study there under the Moi University scholarship scheme during an arrangement there with the School of Environmental Sciences. But at the same time, I got a German scholarship. So I chose to go to study in Germany, but I had an opportunity to interact with the university in Delft and in Wageningen because we had a collaboration with the University of Constance. In the ministry, we've been working also closely with the Dutch government around issues of potato seeds and of course the capacity building programs at the Kenya School of Agriculture. So the Dutch government is an important partner for the government of Kenya in many spheres, especially in the agriculture sector. And recently we launched a book on potato farming. But we have been working collaboratively on the issues of potato for quite some time. I knew the former ambassador. I think I have seen there's a new ambassador, and we look forward to collaborating with them as well. I've been also the Secretary General of the German alumni, so I know alumni work is very important. I've been also the chairman of the alumni letter for almost 10 years. So I applaud the work of the alumni for bringing ideas together, having conversation around such a topical issue. Regarding the issue of food security, the government has an agenda of 100% food and nutrition security. And when we say this, basically, we have looking at various parameters. Number one, availability of food. So there are many staples that we track, including maize, the main staple, potatoes, beans, and rice, sugar, and all these commodities. So we usually have a monthly tracker that looks at availability as well as the cost of food in the markets. So because they go together, if it's too expensive, it could be available, but it could be out of reach for most people. Apart from availability and the cost, we also look at access, the issue of whether people can get to the food or the food can get to the people. And this was especially critical during the time of the pandemic. Some places there was a lot of food rotting, other places there was food deficit, and because of lockdowns, initially there were challenges of distributing food. So we made sure that was resolved and people were able to access the food. Yeah, so basically when we talk about food security, we are talking about its availability, accessibility, and affordability. And we keep tracking those and reporting to cabinet and to the country about all these parameters. As part of the Big Four agenda, the ministry has focused on increasing productivity as well as increasing production. As you're aware, our production system is largely smallholder, and so has a productivity gap. We are not producing as much per acre as we should because of capacity issues. So on average, if an American can produce 12 metric tons per hectare, the average Kenyan farmer will produce between 0.5 to 2 metric tons per hectare. And so that is very low. And because of that, they are not able to earn. And because of that, their food is insecure. So I think to resolve this is to increase productivity per acre. That will not need more land, but means producing more from the same amount of land that we are using. And we can easily double. If we move it from 2 to 5 metric tons per hectare, we'll be doing okay. Ethiopia does that. Most of Europe does around 7 metric tons per hectare. And for us to be able to do this, we have to embrace technology. Our people have to use certified seeds. Our people have to understand the soils and the issues of soil health. And our people have to understand how to manage crops, diseases, and pests. One of the biggest challenges to this productivity issue is the farming method. It is largely farming methods that are not good for the soil, especially the use of the disc plow, creation of a hard pan that leads to soil erosion, that eventually leads to soil acidity. So we're losing our best soils into the ocean, and the remaining soil becomes acidic, hence these productivity issues. So that means deliberate shift towards conservation agriculture can help us. We have seen farmers around Timau, they were able to turn around their collapsed soil by embracing conservation agriculture. And conservation agriculture works also for smallholder farmers. And so extension work around farming systems, especially that are sensitive to the environment and to the ecosystem services that come from nature, promoted and encouraged. And we're having a lot of discussions around these issues. So our focus is mainly on the smallholder farmer because they make like 90% of our production system. I think part of the challenge that we have to overcome, of course, is the fact that smallholder farmer learns very slowly. Sometimes it doesn't learn at all. For example, only about 8% of our farmers test their soil before they apply fertilizer. And so because of that, they put either too much fertilizer or they put the wrong type of fertilizer, as a result impacting on productivity. So as government, we try to work on policies that will shift the behavior of the farmer and those engaged in farming so that we can benefit from their activity and so that they can benefit from their farming activity by earning more from less. So we have even shifted our policies to move away from distribution of fertilizer to embrace what we call smart subsidy programs or smart input support programs, where we are embracing the e-voucher, where instead of giving fertilizer to the farmer, most of the time the wrong one, we give them a voucher so that they can test their soil, so that they can pick the fertilizer that is suitable for their soil, and so that they can realize maximum benefits. So this is in our strategy, but we also have a strategy of growing crops and food on large scale and creating agro-parks. Less than 10% of our farms are large scale. And so large scale production usually is mechanized. Most of our farmers are not mechanized and is able to produce more food. I think the Netherlands went through the same system like us, where they subdivided, then they consolidated. I don't know how practical it is to consolidate here, whether people will wish to consolidate and have larger farms, but it's a policy thing that needs to be discussed, because land fragmentation is a major hindrance to food insecurity. Of course, the other thing that we really worry about is the issue of climate, because that affects our production and productivity and affects our farmers negatively. And so of late, we have really been pushing the issue of resilience to climate and resilience to pests and diseases. We've been battling fall armyworm. We've been battling locusts and other pests that are a threat to our production system. But most importantly, we've been battling climate issues. Like this year, production will be low We are tracking the numbers, but we can still assure the country of food security. That means food being available, accessible, and affordable. And where we have gaps, of course, we trade. That's why we are talking here as Mashariki with the Tanzania. They are our good trading partners, and they bridge the gap, especially around April, May, June, July, when we usually have a shortfall. Usually we get imports from Tanzania or Uganda, and it's part of the global community since we are part of one customs market union. So our food security is assured through local production and imports. But we also export other commodities, mostly horticultural commodities, into Europe. So agriculture still remains the mainstay of our production, of our GDP, making up 34% of production, with some crops being quite dominant, like tea and horticulture, but also the livestock sector being quite strong in terms of performance, in terms of the GDP. To address the issue of nutrition, the ministry has a nutrition unit which collaborates very well with the Ministry of Health to educate communities about good nutrition and develop syllabus that is used for training. And basically, we have pushed very much for crop diversification programs. So when we give seeds, we give a diversity of seeds. To move us forward and to conclude, I wasn't so sure how much time I had been given. We are encouraging the use of suitability maps. Kenya is not a maize country per se, although we like maize. Only 5%, 5 to 10% of Kenya is suitable for maize, very suitable. The rest is either moderately or unsuitable for maize. But we see maize being grown everywhere. And every governor wants to give maize seeds, even if they are in Mandera, and so on and so forth. And I think this is part of the things that we are trying to address through some of our program, having developed suitability maps that say which crop is most suited where, so that people grow what will be competitively advantageous to them, and so that we can create complementarity and a diverse Kenyan food plate that is not disproportionately dominated by maize. And we hope through some of this program, we'll see a shift as Kenyans try to diversify their food culture and assure themselves of food security. And because we are talking to academia, we have strong emphasis on digitization and data and research, mostly through partners like CG Centers and CalRO, but also through the universities. Of course, we are not funding research as much as we should, and we are not funding agriculture as much as we should. But this is a good thing to continue debating, lobbying, pushing, so that we can reach the international levels of funding to support these sectors. So I think let me stop there and to wish all the participants here good deliberations. For the alumni, I was exactly where you are. I grew through the university systems, was a vice chancellor at Taita Taveta University before coming here. And I'm sure we have a good replacement stock among you as we exit. Thank you very much.
Professor, thank you very much for what you've told us, some new insights that you've given us. And I'm happy that you've pointed out that much of our production is from smallholders farmers, and that's where more focus should be. I think we'll be having a Q&A section later where some issues will come up.